Guys, what's going on? Welcome to Serial at Midnight. My name is Heath, and I am joined by Cinema Dave Media for a discussion about some of our favorite October movies. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's October. How can it not be good, right?
That's right. Yes.
We're ready for Halloween already.
Yes. Some people have been ready since August. Me included.
Yeah,
so your channel, you are a YouTuber. Your channel is is Cinema Dave Media. You are also a musician.
Yeah.
You are a Renaissance man. Tell us just a little bit about your channel.
First of all, I really want to say thanks to you, and thanks for having me as part of this video, because I have to say, way back when I started watching your channel, one of the things that I don't think we've talked about this, but earlier in the year, I was having some health issues, and so I have to say that your channel kind of helped me through that, kind of brought me through that. I started watching your videos, and as you probably saw on Instagram, things like that, I started to kind of share more. Yeah. And so it was really I feel like it was due to your channel, though your videos helped me through those moments, I felt like. And I'm being totally sincere on that. I really appreciate it. And I love the positivity of your channel. I love the content that you provide. It's just awesome. So I don't think I'd be on YouTube if it wasn't for you. I have to say that.
Wow, I really appreciate that.
So,
is everything going okay?
Yeah. Okay.
I
mean, I think I was kind of in kind of a burnout mode. I've worked for many years, and I felt like my energy levels were really down. I was just kind of burnt out, and I found that your videos were just a highlight of the day, and it just made me smile, and it helped me. Honestly, I feel like lots of folks on YouTube like yourself. I mean, it just helped me feel better. So I really wanted to thank you for that and kind of start. So.
Thank you. I'm going to have to edit all that out because it's just too nice.
Yeah, that's all right. You can cut that out.
Well, thank you. That's really meaningful. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I have a small YouTube channel, and
but it's growing, and that's
yeah. And I've loved movies since I was a kid. I mean, I grew up with movies just like you do. I like a lot of the same 70s, 80s kind of movies that you talk about on your channel, and so that's kind of where it came from. I've just never really talked about movies, and I've never thought about YouTube. I'm on Instagram also. And so, but I've always been a huge fan. I've always followed movies since I was a kid, and that's kind of that's basically the background.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So Cinema Dave Media, you kind of pitched this idea. You were the one who was like, essentially Halloween. It started as like a horror list, like our favorite horror movies. And we're like, well, but there's going to be so many that people talk about every year. And then you were like, well, what about Halloween movies, October movies that we love, we watch every year, and they're not necessarily the greatest hits, right?
Right.
Lead us off with your 10th pick.
Okay, I may have some surprises for you here, so I don't know. But so this first one is from 2018, and it's an animation movie.
Oh, wow. Hotel Transylvania
3. Now, this is a franchise, right, from Sony Animation Studios, and I love these films. And I watch them every year for whatever reason. I'm not, I'm a classic film fan as well, but these films are just fun. I feel like these films are. Have you seen any of these, or have you?
No, I've seen none of them. None.
So the third one, I feel like, is a really good pick if you were to pick one of them, because it's basically Dracula on a cruise. That's basically what it is. Mm-hmm. And but you've got voices like Kevin James, Adam Sandler, David Spade. So it is kind of comedy horror, but to me, this is something that I watch every single year. And, my wife doesn't like it all the time, but because I'll put one on, and then I'll put two on. And then like earlier this week, I started watching 3, and I'm like, oh, I got to watch this again. I mean, I want to watch them over and over again. So this is my number 10.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, I will stay in that similar vein.
Yeah.
Now I've talked about some of these movies before I think last year I did like a family friendly. I did a whole lot of content for Halloween last year. So some of this stuff might be repeats, but I did talk about this, but I had to bring this up. This is Mad Monster Party.
Oh, wow.
Which is is it 1967? Yeah, 67. It's Rankin Bass, and it is the people that did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, but it was a theatrical film. It came out in the theaters. It's the monsters. It's Rankin Bass taking on basically their non-copyright versions of the Universal monsters.
Wow.
So it's a musical. It's very 60s. The theme song, like there's a Mad Monster Party is the theme song. and it's basically like they try to make the song sound like Shirley Bassey's Goldfinger song. Like it's got that Bond, like it's very big and brassy.
Nice.
And I do watch this every single year. Now, the criticism against this movie is that it is 95 minutes, and that's long. For a movie like this, it doesn't feel like it would be, but once you get to about 60 minutes, you start checking your watch. You're like, a lot of people love this movie, but everyone agrees that it's just a little bit too long. But I guess they were trying to get it up for theatrical length. But that's my number 10.
That's awesome. I've never seen that movie before, too. And I love Rankin Bass stuff, too. So that's great. That is great. So, okay, moving on. My number 9 pick here. Now, this is another one that's controversial, I think, but It Follows. Have you seen It Follows?
So I have It Follows, but I think it was on my list last year.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think it was on my list last year of things that I meant to get to, and I did not.
So I just rewatched this, and I've seen this movie probably 3 times. I rewatched it when my wife watched it. She didn't really like it the first time, and then we watched it together this week again. And I love this film. And the reason is because, and just, kind of real briefly here, you sort of lose a sense of time in this film because it has 70s retro stuff. It has 80s music. It's got 50s movies on the TV. The colors are absolutely vibrant. I mean, there's very blues and yellows and reds and things like that. So it's a very kind of stylized visual type of a film, but a lot of people don't like it. And I really find it to be sort of a slow burn, and it feels like it's very dreamlike to me.
Yeah.
So we love this film, and it's kind of a film about a curse. I mean, I'm not going to, I don't want to spoil it, but I highly recommend it. It's this is on my top 10 list for the year, and I will watch it every year now. So, and it only came out, I think, in 2018. Again, this one is a 2018 film. So
I hear a lot of people say that it is their favorite horror movie of all time, and then you're saying there's some people that don't like it. So
some people don't like it. Yeah,
it's the times we live in where it's there's this huge divide.
I think people are expecting it to be a slasher film, and it's really not the case, right? It's like my wife was saying, when she went into it, she thought it was a slasher film. It's kind of like with Halloween 3, where you're expected to be a certain thing, and it's not, right? So yeah,
we may talk more about that coming up.
Okay.
So I'll try to match that one too with a similar modern horror movie. This is a slasher. I'm going to go with Youre Next. Wow. I love this movie. I saw this in theaters and it blew my mind. This is directed by Adam Wingard. It is, I say it's a slasher. It's not that simple. Have you seen Youre Next?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
These are all films we haven't seen.
Yes. Hey, it works for the conversation.
That's it. Exactly.
It is a, family, this girl and this guy is bringing his girl home to meet the family, and she's Australian and she's awesome and she's really sweet and she's just like, blah, blah. And then something like people start killing people start dying in the house. They start getting violently murdered in this house over this weekend by this masked killer.
Crazy.
And so our heroine becomes our final girl and ends up having to, I won't overshare, but she becomes really, really tough. And then you find out all this stuff about her, like she was raised military and it's very cool. It's the girl that fights back. And so I love it. It's got this great use of one single song that just keeps recurring through the movie. Highly recommended. That's my number 9.
So it's kind of like Meet the Parents Gone Wrong.
Yes.
Kind of like that, right? All right. This next one is a classic, and I haven't opened it yet because I just got the Steelbook. And you probably know, for me, just like your channel, I'm more of a bargain hunter, so I look for deals, and which I think is a great way to look for movies. But I found this at Best Buy. There was only one copy left, and I thought I'd pick it up. Pretty classic here, The Exorcist, right?
Yes.
And they came out with a Steelbook, and this was really cheap at Best Buy. So I picked this one up. And this is one of the reason I picked this one, it's on my top 10 list, but this is one of the only movies as a kid. I think a lot of these horror movies too, at least for me anyway, I relate to them because they're movies I saw when I was a kid, and this is one of the ones where I remember specifically watching it on TV and having to turn away from the, from the TV or kind of close my eyes. I rarely have to do that when I watch these movies, but this is one of those that I had to do that. And I feel like it's William Friedkin, of course, The French Connection. So just I feel like it's an amazing film. I'm sure you've seen this one.
Actually, so I haven't.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen it because there's so much baggage attached to this movie for me. Growing up in the religious household that I grew up in, that movie was the devil. And it literally was preached against. There was so much fear put into me against that movie from a very early, even into my teenage years. Like, I won't get super deep into it because there's no one wants to hear that. But there was even a story like someone that we knew apparently had gotten like demon possessed from watching Exorcist.
Really?
I don't believe this, but this was the story. And so the movie is ruined for me is basically what it comes down to. Even if I saw, I mean, I've seen the clips, I know what it's about, but even if I watched the movie, I would not be able to watch it for what it is. There's such a grudge that's been built there now that I've just, maybe one day I will, one day I will.
I think, like I said, for William Friedkin, he's one of the guys who I could listen to talk. You know, I have a list of people I could listen to talk for hours, and he's one of those. I just feel like he's a brilliant guy. I mean,
have you ever heard him on the Movies That Made Me podcast?
I haven't heard that. I have not heard that, but I've heard he's on there. I think you mentioned that, right? Yeah.
I don't remember if I've mentioned it or not, but he did. He was on there one time, and every opinion. I mean, super controversial.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He said, I think it was the Exorcist 3, he said is the worst movie that's ever been created. I mean, it was this whole list of just these really outrageous claims. And he hadn't even, by the way, seen the movie.
Really? Oh,
20 minutes of it. It was, but it's really funny. He is, you're right. He's very intelligent. He's very well spoken, but the man has opinions.
Yeah. Agree.
Okay.
You're up next.
Well, I'll try to match that classic with a classic of my own, An American Werewolf in London.
Nice.
I do watch this every year. I refer to it as like a cozy werewolf blanket that every October you just pull it up and you just watch this movie. It's funny. It's scary. It has wonderful practical effects from that golden age of Hollywood special effects. I don't know what's more to say about this movie. John Landis.
Yeah.
I think this came up in our recent Patreon live stream, and like Max Landis wants to do this, and even John Landis is like, no,
don't do it.
Don't do it. Yeah. Don't do it. So
it's funny though. It's funny though that everything we mentioned so far, I haven't seen that movie.
You haven't seen it?
I've never seen it, so that's why, like I said, I'm making mental notes here so I can add these things to my list. I should have seen it many years ago, but I haven't seen it.
You know what? We all have those movies. We have a lot of those movies. There's so many movies out there, and it's just I'm watching more movies now than I ever have before, just because of the channel and because I have to now. Yeah. I will say this is getting an Arrow video release coming up very soon as I'm recording this. I think it's this month. And Arrow like blows everything away. They tons and tons and tons of special features. Okay,
gotta wait for that one. Next one for me, number 7 for me, is the Fly.
Now, is that the remake, Jeff Goldblum? Or
this is the remake. This is the remake of The Fly, and this is the back. And this came I got this from Best Buy, I think, also. And I was a little disappointed with this because it has this. I thought this was the cover, which is an awesome cover, but it's got like this little cardboard. It's a little cardboard cover. But have you seen this one? I'm sure you've seen The Fly. But
I have seen The Fly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just love Jeff Goldblum in this one, and I just think it's a great film. I love the original, of course, with Vincent Price also, but I feel like this is a pretty decent remake. I mean, so I'll usually watch this every year. I just think his portrayal of the character is just amazing. Some of the things he pulls off, some of the, his whole transformation into this monster, I think is just amazing. So
yes.
But the Vincent Price one is classic, right?
Yeah. Well, they both have, you know what? That's in a conversation about remakes. Those are both movies that have merits on their own because they both do kind of different things. It's the same story, but two very different approaches.
Yeah. I keep watching too. There's I think on Amazon now, there's the Fly box set, right? Where they have, I don't know all the Fly, but the Fly and the Fly 2 and then the Goldblum one. I've been watching the price on that one too. So.
Yeah. It's Screen Factory, so it will not come cheap. I think it's like $69 or something like that.
$60, but I keep watching the price. It seems to come down. So
yeah, it's worth watching. I have The Fly in my collection. I don't think I have The Fly 2, or I might have The Fly 2.
And then isn't there the third, The Curse of the Fly or something? Isn't that the third one?
I don't know. Is there?
I think there is a third one, but I'm not sure if that's the name of it. So correct me there if I'm wrong. But
The Bride of the Fly.
The Bride. Yep.
Let's see. This is Yes, I don't have an insect movie here to match you with, but I will say I was torn between. We have 2 Tim Burton movies that we watch every October, and I was torn with which one to go with, and I ended up with Sleepy Hollow.
Oh wow!
Have you seen Sleepy Hollow?
I haven't seen Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, Dave.
We're going to see if we get to the end. Maybe I haven't seen any of these movies that you're mentioning.
It'd be amazing. Okay, so if you have seen them, just lie and say you haven't.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So this was 1998, I want to say. 99. It's 99. I saw this in the theater, and it made such an impression on me because it's essentially the most Hammer horror movie that Tim Burton has ever made. It is just steeped in his love of Hammer horror. Has Hammer actors in it. I'm trying to think of some of the. I think Christopher Lee has a cameo in this movie. It's Johnny Depp before Johnny Depp was the huge megastar that he is now.
Right.
Well, was. He's kind of on his way back down now, but he was 99. He was still that like young, hungry. It's an acting performance, but he's not completely. He does still cover himself up in here. There's a shot on the back of the box here. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he is kind of covering himself up a little bit, but for most of the movie, he's just Johnny Depp giving a performance. And Christina Ricci is in here, and Christopher Walken is the Headless Horseman.
Classic.
And he doesn't get to really say anything because he's the Headless Horseman.
Sure.
But I don't know. It's just very atmospheric. It feels like a Hammer movie, but it's not a Hammer movie. It's an American movie from. If you've seen, what's the Daniel Radcliffe movie, The Woman in Black. That's a Hammer movie that is like the modern revival of Hammer. This is kind of that vibe, very gothic, very atmospheric, very blue fog everywhere. And a lot of Tim Burton's featured players get to show up in this. So
that's very cool. That's very cool. And I'm kind of new to Hammer horror, but I'm loving it so far. I got the Hammer horror, the 8 film collection. So yes. I'm very new to it. I'm very new to it, but I love Peter Cushing, Oliver Reed. It's just amazing stuff. So, all right, very good. So next one for me, number 6 this is another Best Buy that I picked up. It's Poltergeist.
Okay. That's the one that Bree wanted me to talk about. Poltergeist.
Oh, okay. Hey,
I couldn't find. So
we picked one that's a similar one. So I love this movie. Tobe Hooper, right? Yes. I think Tobe Hooper did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? And he did many others, of course. But so we love this movie. And Craig T. Nelson. Oh man, I just really enjoy his. I enjoy him in anything, but he's especially good in this one. So we watch this one just about every year as well. I don't know. There's much more to say about it. I just find it a really fun, interesting. It's kind of sci-fi horror, but it's So, but you must have an opinion about it too, I'm sure. So
I like it a lot. There's so many stories behind the scenes of this movie. Stories about Craig T. Nelson, because I believe he was coming off a pretty rough patch in his personal life with bad behavior stuff. That's really interesting. So he has cool stories about that. Also, I have to talk about the debate around this movie, which is that Tobe Hooper, did he direct this movie or did Steven Spielberg direct this movie? People who were there say they took all their direction from Steven Spielberg.
Interesting.
Other people who were there say, well, Tobe Hooper directed me. So I don't think we'll ever really know the story. I do know that Steven Spielberg was on set for most of this movie. He produced it, and by all accounts, he stepped in a lot. But Tobe Hooper has the directorial credit as Spielberg wanted. So this is the big talk.
This is the controversy. Yeah.
This is the controversy, and it's blown up in the last few years where it's like back and forth. It's like Tobe Hooper didn't direct that movie. Spielberg directed that movie. But again, we'll probably never know the truth. But it's probably a mix.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, speaking of Hammer. I always go through this huge Hammer. Every Halloween, I watch a lot of Hammer. And there's one, I'm going to do maybe 2 Hammer movies, because I do have one extra just in case I needed to switch something out. But I do want to talk about a Hammer movie that I don't feel like gets talked about enough. And it's on this Mill Creek 2-pack. That's how I have it. This is, it's the 2 Faces of Dr. Jekyll and the Gorgon, or I think it's the Gorgon, I think is how we technically pronounce it. But it's Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, directed by Terrence Fisher, who is the preeminent Hammer director. If you see a Hammer movie directed by Terrence Fisher, like, oh, this is one of the good ones.
Yeah.
He was like the A-list Hammer guy. But it is the story of the Gorgon. The Gorgon. The Gorgon. Is like the mythological creature that would turn you to stone if you looked at her. The Medusa, basically Medusa. And it's this English town. I don't know if it's English now that it's shot in England, but I can't remember if they're supposed to be. So many times they'd be like, "Oh, welcome to Germany, Mr. So-and-so." You're like, you're not in Germany. You're in the back.
You're in the studio.
Yes. But it's really cool. It's Hammer made so many sequels. They would do like a ton of Dracula movies, a ton of Frankenstein movies, mummy movies. They just like crank some of these things out. This one kind of stands alone. Tap the microphone. This one kind of stands alone as its own thing. It's just kind of a done in one. And let's try to hold it up for everybody.
Yeah.
It's just a really cool. That's what I love. For me, Halloween is not having the absolute crap scared out of you. It's kind of enjoying the vibe and the atmosphere of like that old school horror, the gothic kind of a thing. That's what Halloween, that's kind of what I dig into. So, the Gorgon.
No, it's funny that you mentioned Terrence Fisher because I was watching something. I think he did the original, or he did the Hammer version of The Mummy, right? Wasn't The Mummy directed also by Terrence Fisher?
I believe it was, yeah.
I started watching the beginning of that because TCM starts to show some of those as well, and they had a version of The Mummy on, and I'm like, oh, I need to watch this. And I knew I was going to like it. I didn't have time to, finish the whole thing, but all right. The next one I do have it, but it's in the other room, and it's part of a collection, but it's Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho. So Psycho is my number 5 pick, and I mean anything Hitchcock. I mean it's hard to kind of talk about Hitchcock in a couple of minutes, but I will say that one of the things that I wrote down too is that I don't know if you've seen it, but one of the documentaries I like is the 7852 documentary about the shower scene. And so I don't know if you've seen that. It's on Amazon Prime, but there's also a DVD of it. But it's basically about the I think it's either 52 seconds and 78 cuts or the other way around, right? But it's basically a documentary about how he did that shower scene. And, I mean, it's just your classic Hitchcock, right? I mean, he was one of the things where he did not allow people. This is one of the movies where he did not allow anyone to leave the theater after a certain point, right? I mean, there's lots of, discussion about how he said that if you come in, you cannot come in late, right? Because of, obviously, I don't know if you can, I mean, can you really spoil a film that's from 1960?
I don't think so. Anyway. Go for it.
So with what happens with Janet Leigh, right? In the film, right? He didn't want anyone to come in late, to miss that because Janet Leigh was a headliner, right? So and she basically is gone in the beginning of the film. So anyway, there's so many things I love about Hitchcock. I mean, I can't tell you. I actually took a course a couple of years ago. TCM and Ball State University were putting on an online course about Hitchcock, and they haven't done it since. They did one on musicals, and they did one on Hitchcock. And it was
They did one on noir as well. And
they did.
Participated in that one.
Oh, did you? I think I missed. I regret that I missed that one. But they also did a slapstick one too. I think a slapstick comedy one. Yeah.
Yes, that was the next year. It was the year before the slapstick comedy one.
Yeah, the Hitchcock one was great. Did you like that? I know we're cutting all this, but I'm just kidding.
No, we won't.
No, I know. I thought it was great anyway. They kind of took you through all of his films and gave you kind of, behind the scenes and talked about the MacGuffin and all these other things that, that I hadn't really heard of, before. But I'm a huge Hitchcock fan. Who led the
course? Do you remember who was kind of overseeing the instruction?
I can't think of his name. I was following him on Twitter for a while, but I can't think of his name. And I was a little disappointed they didn't have something this year because after Hitchcock they did they did musicals, and so I went through that course too, which was great. But maybe they didn't have funding for it. I don't know what happened there, but
I don't know. We cut our cord. We're cable free now. We do everything through antenna and our streaming services. So for all the people that are like streaming, Heath hates streaming. We actually have a ton of streaming, but that was the big thing for me. Like I wanted to do the musicals course. I was like, I have no way to watch these shows or these, the programming. So. But yeah, if anybody has an opportunity, if they start doing it again, it sounds like they didn't do anything this year, but if they do start doing them again, I highly recommend them because they are like college level courses. They are very well instructed. The noir one was led by I can't remember.
I can't think of the guy's name. Yeah,
but they're important people. They teach this stuff. Like this is what they do.
Yeah.
So it's really cool stuff.
So Hitchcock.
Yes.
Yep.
So Psycho. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you think they'll ever remake Psycho again?
I hope not.
I bet they will.
Well, the Gus Van Sant version, I'm sure there's been a lot of controversy about that because it's a shot-for-shot remake, right? So,
yeah, but it's
yeah, that's true. I don't know. A lot of there's some people that like it, and I like Gus Van Sant as a director, but I'm not sure. I saw it years ago, and I didn't like it. So did you like the remake, or have you seen the remake, or
I think I watched it like 20 years ago. I don't remember it. There's not much to remember because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Essentially, isn't there like a little bit of nudity in the shower scene now?
I see. I don't even remember that. I don't even remember that.
I think they did something that was just a little more provocative. Yeah, I'm not a fan, and don't mess with Hitchcock.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't mess with Hitchcock.
I'm with you on that.
Okay. All right. So we're entering our top 5. Let's see.
This is gonna be 3 hours, by the way. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we're at half an hour, so we'll just go with it. With it. Okay.
Exactly.
This is going to be perhaps controversial, but I don't care. My number 5 is The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. I love this movie.
Nice.
So what if it's not scary? It is a perfect Halloween movie. It is so funny. Don Knotts is a comedic genius. For people who only think that comedy is Will Ferrell and Judd Apatow and whatever, like the timing in this movie, the way when he gets up, you've seen the movie, right?
Yes,
Didn't you watch this recently? I feel like you posted.
Yep.
When he gets up to stand, like he gives his speech, and he's just like, "Well, I would like to say that," it's so funny.
Classic. Yeah.
And then if you start getting into the history of the movie, and like Andy Griffith was a very big part behind the scenes of getting the thing greenlit in the first place, because essentially Don Knotts' rising star was not good for the Andy Griffith show, but Andy Griffith was so confident and just so he believed in Don Knotts that they're so he helped work on the script. The Attaboy Luther is from Andy Griffith. There's a recurring joke. It's like, Attaboy Luther. That came from Andy Griffith.
Nice.
So not a lot of for the many people who probably do not know what this is or have not seen this, it is a 1960, I want to say 65, 66. It's a Don Knotts movie filmed on the Universal backlot where he goes to this haunted house. It's a haunted house movie, but only like 15 minutes of the movie are in the haunted house.
Yeah, that's true.
The rest is like in a diner and in a courtroom and in a house, but so funny.
He's great.
It's great. It is. It's just great. It's classic. Yeah. So I'll leave it.
I'm with you on that. I think you recommended this movie too, because I hadn't seen it, and I'm sure maybe I saw it years ago. And it's along with this. It's in that series, right, with the Reluctant Astronaut, and there's another one I think.
Shakiest Gun in the West, and The Love God is another one that he did during that. I think there were 3 or 4 Universal contract pictures in a row.
Is that near the Incredible Mr. Limpid? Was it also the same? Is that in the same period of time?
Let me go to IMDb.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting too, because you're right. I mean, what a classic movie, what a classic performance, and he is. I mean, those eyes too, right? He just conveys so much with his eyes, and just amazing.
Limpid was 64, so these would have been after that. All these other Universal movies would have been after that.
Gotcha. All right, next one. So we're getting in the top 5. This is one of my absolute favorites. I may have clued you into this one a little bit, maybe with the live stream earlier. This is another remake, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Ah. Is that the Steelbook? The new Steelbook?
This is not the Steelbook.
Oh, okay.
This is the Scream Factory one, which I think came out a few years ago. But I just love the cover on this one too. If you can see, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
So I just recently rewatched the 1956 version, which is great too. And it's all kind of in the 1956 version. You've got a lot of Cold War paranoia kind of things, but I just love this. Well, first of all, Donald Sutherland in the 70s, you really can't beat that. Plus, I love the Star Trek connection with Leonard Nimoy, one of his own movie roles. I don't know if have you seen this one too? Have you seen the remake? Or
I don't know that I've seen the remake. You're talking about it, and it's not ringing a bell. I thought I had until you started talking about it, but I didn't.
So again, you've got Jeff Goldblum, Leonard Nimoy plays like a professor in this, and I still am a huge Star Trek fan. So seeing him in a movie around this time was great too, because the Star Trek movies came out. I can still do that too. Look at that.
Long and prosperous.
Look at that. I can't do it with the other. Oh no, I guess I can do it.
There you can. Full-blooded Vulcan.
A full-blooded. Yep. So it's a great movie, just about alienation and about there's it's an interesting theme, I think, with some of these movies where you find in certain movies where certain characters are not believed, right? Mm-hmm. So I think this even happens in the Halloween movies too, where somebody's saying, "Hey, Michael Myers is over there," and people don't believe them. This is the same kind of thing, right? Where Kevin McCarthy in the original movie too, he's saying like, these people are different, and he's seeing, patients come into his office and say something's different about this person, but I'm not really sure what it is. And so it's this kind of like alienation, like the fact that you can know a person very well in terms of their physical appearance and their intellect and things like that, but there's a certain other quality that makes you maybe not know them anymore, right? If it if it goes away. So I guess I like that about the whole movie, and I feel like it relates a lot to the culture. I'm not sure today, but maybe in any day, right? The fact that in many ways, we're kind of disconnected in a way, right, with people. So anyway, that's one of my favorites, and I watch it every year for sure. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I think my joke about the original is that its working title was "So Your Friend's a Communist," but that does lean into talking about remakes as we do a lot. That there is a take on that you could do now, where just the political divide in our country right now. Yeah. I know this person's my family. There's so many awkward Thanksgiving dinners all across America every year now. That's a perfect setup for something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. But anyway, it's a great one.
I'm going to go with, as referenced earlier, Halloween 3: Season of the Witch.
Nice.
I know this is kind of the black sheep of the Halloween franchise, but this is also the one that tried to do something different and tried to do something original and steer away from Michael Myers, and I like it a lot. We do watch this just about every year. Bree has a silver shamrock shirt from this movie, and I feel like maybe in the last 2 to 3 years, it's kind of gotten a little bit more love. People are like, maybe we were wrong about this. Maybe it's all right. But Tom Atkins is fantastic in everything. Tom Atkins is so larger than life. But the original idea for the Halloween franchise was that John Carpenter wanted to move away from just Michael Myers stories and have it be kind of an anthology series. And they made this one, and people were like, well, Michael Myers isn't in this movie. So they went back to the Michael Myers formula, and here we are 9 more movies later. We're still making Michael Myers movies, but this is the one that's different, and it's just really cool. It's very 80s. There's a robot. There's
No, I totally agree with you. I think it's great. I mean, I just watched it for the first time. I probably had seen it at the time it came out, but I didn't remember it very much. But I love it. I think it's a great movie. I think it's really creative. I love the music. You can see where shows like Stranger Things, right, are drawing from this kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And even to the point of just the at some point they go to this. Are we spoiling this now? I don't know. For Halloween 3?
Maybe a little bit. Do a light spoiler.
I'll do a light spoiler. There's kind of a Stonehenge thing at the end where they go. Do you remember that?
Yes.
There's like a rock that emits energy at the end. Does that spoil it too much? I don't know.
No, that's fine.
But anyway, But anyway, so you can see kind of these parallels with Stranger Things and the music and the computer stuff. I mean, that commercial really gets in your head for sure. It's hard to get that out of your head, but
yeah,
it's classic, right?
Sometimes Bree and I just especially this time of the year, we'll just be like, and then you just have to go with the whole thing. You gotta 8 more days to Halloween.
Oh no. Yeah, it's crazy, right? But it's a great film.
Yeah, it's good.
All right, so number 4, Young Frankenstein.
Oh, nice.
Young Frankenstein. It's one of my favorite Mel Brooks movies. So many classic lines. My favorite line is "Put the candle back." That's my favorite line in this movie. When Gene Wilder gets stuck in the bookcase and he kind of muffles. He goes, "Put the candle back." Sorry, that's my favorite. So I think it's classic, and it's something I watch every year. We watched again this year, and we just had a bunch of laughs with it. It seems to get better. It's 1974, and it seems to really hold up well. I mean, it's funny how some of these movies really hold up, and I think this is one of them. So I don't know. I just love Mel Brooks. There's not a lot to say other than it's great. I feel like, but I'm sure.
The "Putting on the Ritz" song for me, every time I laugh so hard I can't breathe anymore.
Yeah, I think that was number 3. Was that number? Did I get that?
That was number 3. I was counting. I was like, hold on, how many have I done?
It is number 3. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to throw out my auxiliary here because I don't think I'm going to need it, and go with... This is not exactly the cover of this, but in the Vincent Price Volume 2 collection is a movie called House on Haunted Hill, and it is one of my favorite Vincent Price movies, 1959. All the stuff that I talk about loving, the creaky haunted houses, and then just like the overall gothic macabre thing. That's all. It's a very silly movie. It's not a scary movie, but it is. it's classic Vincent Price.
Classic. Yeah.
It's down here in the bottom. This is the list of the movies that are on this, and it's got some good ones.
One of those is out of print, right? Isn't Volume 1 out of print?
Volume 1 is out of print. Yes. Yeah. They keep saying it's going to come back in print, but it hasn't yet.
It's great that they released those on there because there's 3 volumes now, right?
Yes.
That one. Yeah.
I love them, and they are so well done. They have so many special features. Like they had, for those who don't know, they had gotten he had done like some public access introductions for like he was introducing these movies for a public access channel, and so it's just like him by a fire and like introducing these things, and they got those. And they put them on the Blu-rays. That's cool. Fantastic.
That's cool.
For us, Vincent Price kind of owns Halloween.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to watch more Vincent Price. Like I said, when I watched the original version of The Fly a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I need to watch more of these. Definitely. Yeah. So, yeah. I think my final 2 are going to be no surprise to you. Okay. No surprise at all. But being a huge John Carpenter fan, number 2 for me has got to be The Thing. And
nice.
This is, it's funny. I wasn't even thinking about this, when I was watching your live stream too. But I guess I am talking about a lot of remakes. I didn't even realize. But so this is another Scream Factory release, and I've seen this movie a ton of times. I remember when it came out, obviously in the theater, when I think Halloween 2 was being worked on, and then John Carpenter was working on this one, right? Mm-hmm. And Kurt Russell, man, what a classic role, along with Escape from New York and things like that in this particular time period. But man, I just love this film. Some of the special effects were great. The testing of the blood scene, builds so much tension there. So I'm sure you've seen this one, yeah?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. This was, Bree and I had a conversation about this, and we were like, we're going to pick one John Carpenter movie. Is it The Thing, or is it this other movie? And I was like, you know what? Let's go with this other one. So it worked out well. That's good. We almost picked The Thing. It's crazy, right? That movie is so, like, you look at this stuff on paper, and it's like, okay, well, this creature comes in, and it, like, takes over pretends to be these people's bodies or whatever. There's this guy on the table, and then, like, part of his body separates and pulls off, and then it grows legs, and then it runs away, and you're like, how would you do that? How would you begin to approach filming that? Yeah. They do it, and it looks really creepy, too.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's Play-Doh or like clay. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's so good, and again, it holds up, and it's obviously not on my list, but Escape from New York I recently watched, and I just love John Carpenter. I grew up with John Carpenter, too, so I think this is in this area where these are some of the films I saw when I was a kid, and so I've bonded with them. So
I think that John Carpenter is my favorite director, and I think that Kurt Russell is my favorite actor.
Yeah. Oh man.
They're both so versatile, and like Carpenter doesn't do a lot of work these days, but if you look at his overall career, he's done so many different kinds of movies. They all feel like Carpenter movies, but they all have their own unique feeling. Yeah. Like you look at The Thing, and then you look at Big Trouble in Little China. There's completely different movies.
And also, I'm sorry to interrupt, but also the other thing I was going to say too is the TV movie about Elvis, which I thought was probably right up your alley too. I mean, I remember seeing that as a kid on TV, and I'm like, this is amazing. And that's another John Carpenter film that it's like with Kurt Russell that's just great, right?
Yeah, I have to take this opportunity to shamelessly plug that the exclusive Patreon commentary for October, as we're putting this video up, we have done a commentary for John Carpenter's They Live with Rowdy Roddy Piper, Meg Foster, Keith David. So it's all of our commentaries, our Patreon commentaries, and our exclusive videos, all that stuff unlocks at $5. People ask all the time, why don't you do collection tours? I'm like, well, we do them every month. We do like a 1-hour collection tour every month, but it's on Patreon. So
right.
I'll just leave that there.
And the commentaries are great, by the way. I haven't done the They Live one yet, but the commentaries are great, the ones I've done. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Very, very good. I think we're at number 1 now.
No, we're at number 2 because I haven't done my number 2. Because yours was
yeah, that's right.
Yep. So my John Carpenter movie for number 2 is The Fog. I love this movie. I just discovered it like 4 years ago, and now I watch it every Halloween. Sometimes I watch it twice within a Halloween season. It's so, I'm going to say it's perfect. I think this movie is absolutely perfect. Jamie Lee Curtis, Tom Atkins, again, but the premise for people who haven't seen it is that it's Antonio Bay, City by the Bay, fog rolls in, there's like a kind of like a pirate curse, there's vengeance that has to be extracted, and it is so effective at what it does. And it's got, John Carpenter's the master of doing these soundtracks. Like the Halloween soundtrack is just this, like, it's like, and then it just shifts to a different key, and then it shifts to another key. The Fog theme does the exact same thing, but just with a soft piano. Nice. And it's so unnerving. Have you seen The Fog?
I've seen The Fog. I saw it many years ago, but I recently picked up a copy of it because I'm trying to expand my John Carpenter collection. So I picked up The Fog and Escape from New York and some of the ones I didn't have on Blu-ray. So
I chose this because it's also really, I feel like it's kind of underrated. Well, we should mention, we took some things off the table here. We took off classics. Did we mention that in this video, that we kind of took off, like, let's take off Halloween, let's take off things that get really talked about every single year.
Yeah, even though that's my number one.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead. I'll cut all that out. I never said it. What's your number one?
My number one is Halloween. It has to be Halloween. It has to be Halloween. I figured because we were talking about things we watch every Halloween, this is one that I watch every Halloween.
Yeah, there you go.
So I had to put it on the list, number one, because this is a movie that I saw in the theater when I was a kid. I love it. It's John Carpenter. I know we're doing a lot of John Carpenter love at the end of this video, but you have to, because I feel like he's the master.
Yeah.
So the other reason I picked it too is because I lived in California for many years, and so I used to drive through Pasadena where a lot of this was filmed. And so, and I just remember, I have another version of it too, this other DVD version of it, which I don't know if you can see that or not, but anyway.
I have that as well. That has the documentary on it, does it?
This has the documentary, but one of the things I remember about the documentary is the Deborah Hill talking about the one bag of leaves that they used for every scene, that they had to like throw in every scene to make it look like the fall, right? Yeah. And so I just thought that, for the 1970s, a truly kind of independent type film, and John Carpenter starting out, the music. I mean, the music is just amazing, and the fact that even in the later Halloween films, they kind of put it in, but it's not as good as the '78 version. I mean, I don't know if you like even in I don't think it's even in Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, or maybe a little bit of it, but like in some of the other ones, they use it a little bit and they credit him, but it's not as good. It's just not as good. So. Yeah. So sorry if I missed that. I missed that crucial point. I figured Halloween has to be my number one because.
No. That's great. Keep talking. I'm reaching for something really quick.
Yeah. You're reaching for your copy of Halloween.
I'm reaching for something very similar. Okay.
So.
Talking about the music of Halloween, I just wanted to shout this out. Is this showing up? I can't tell.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
The John Carpenter anthology. And this is also on vinyl, but this is The Man and his son playing the themes of John Carpenter. So it's
now, didn't he go on tour? I felt like he went on tour.
He did,
which would have been very cool to see, right?
Because I didn't get to go.
No, I didn't either.
He didn't come around here.
I don't think he came over here either.
Yeah, he played like, I know he played Chicago. I know he played like Los Angeles or whatever. But they're new instrumentations of these of the versions. But they're not like different. They're not new takes. They're just new. They're just new versions.
That's great.
And they have a video for something. Like there's a video for Christine. It's got like the car in it and everything. It's it's really well done.
Nice.
He's not only the master of horror, but also the master of music, the master of these movie music themes.
I mean, well, even Escape from New York, I was thinking the music is amazing in that movie. Just amazing. So anyway, great stuff.
What else is here? In the Mouth of Madness, Assault on Precinct 13, The Fog, Prince of Darkness, Vampires, Escape from New York, Halloween, Pork Chop Express, which is the theme from Big Trouble in Little China, They Live, The Thing, Starman, Dark Star, and Christine. Oh, man. That's like an education right there. Yeah. It's like, start here. All right, did you finish up?
Number one, yeah. Okay. I think we're on your number one.
So I think this movie is kind of the ultimate Halloween movie. I'm going to go with Cabin in the Woods.
Nice.
Now, have you seen Cabin in the Woods?
I haven't seen Cabin in the Woods. I'm going to have to see that.
Cabin in the Woods will ruin you because it's It's produced by Joss Whedon, who is the man behind Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel. Director, I guess more importantly now, is the director of the Avengers 1 and 2. And it's written by Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard, and directed by Drew Goddard. And so that's... How do I even describe this? It is a commentary on horror while also being a stellar, crystal clear example of what horror can be. It's the first half of the movie is kind of a cabin in the woods story. The second half of this movie, for those who haven't seen it, I will leave it completely unsaid, but the second half of this movie uses every horror trope, every horror style. It is a masterclass in what horror can do. Nice. First time I saw this movie, I'm just like, oh yeah, I want to see it. It's a cabin in the, like, people are like, go see Cabin in the Woods. Don't talk to anybody before you see Cabin in the Woods. Just go. And like my friends, I have Patrick Bromley, this movie. He talks about how his friend was like, do not talk to anybody. Don't look at anything. Just go. Because it's one of those movies that it becomes postmodern, but not in a negative sense, not in an ironic sense, but it becomes, it's the movie, and then it becomes like you pull back and you see this huge scope. You can't believe what you're watching. You can't believe where it's going and how it's doing it. It's incredible. Like, I can't even talk about it because I don't want to spoil anything. Yeah. It's such a journey. It's such a cool, neat idea. You couldn't do sequels. You couldn't do, like, it almost breaks the horror movie. Like Watchmen, if you're like those who read comic books, Watchmen kind of breaks the superhero mold. And after you've done Watchmen, everybody's like, oh, we got to start breaking our heroes down. In the same sense that does that with comic books, Cabin in the Woods deconstructs the horror movie in a way that like all the pieces are there on the floor, and you're just like, wow. So that's my
that one's going on my list then for sure.
Okay, great.
Sweet. Great. Wow.
Well, then we did it.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. Yeah, we did it in less than an hour too. We weren't sure how long we were going to go, but we less than an hour.
We thought it'd be 3.5 hours, but it's only an hour. That's good.
Well, this is fantastic.
This was fun.
Tell people where they can get in touch with you, where they can follow you.
So I'm on YouTube, Cinema Dave Media on YouTube. I'm Cinema Dave on Instagram and Twitter. So those are the places you can follow me. And I again want to say thank you so much. I love your channel, as you know. But I wanted just to say thanks to you. You can tell just how much work you put into these videos, and I really appreciate it. And it's a joy to watch. So
thank you. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Well, for everyone who's watching this video, what is your top 10 October Halloween horror scary movie? Like, what do you watch every year? What are your go-to favorites, your top 10? Let us know in the comments below. We can continue the conversation. What's cool about these things is that we can always kind of turn other people on to maybe things that have been overlooked or that you weren't aware of. So these are really opportunities to share. And I'm excited about that. So, guys, thank you very much. Dave, thank you very much for joining me for this conversation. So I guess we will leave it here. And until next time, we will catch you later.